Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Fantasy Roundup here on bet.nola.com and the Bayou Bets YouTube channel. I'm Zach Ewing with Spencer the Guru Urquhart. He's getting some last-minute research in. We are ready to go, recap Week 13, do our weekly awards for fantasy football, and move on to Week 14. Waiver wire, DFS, sleepers, all of the above. We'll check in on our listener league, and we'll talk about your fantasy playoffs. I mean, most leagues
Yeah.
have 1 week left in the regular season for fantasy football, and then you're into the playoffs next week at this time. So if you're trying to secure that last spot, maybe you're going for a bye, maybe you're just trying to get that roster set because you've already locked in your position. Whatever the case is, we're going to help you. Ask your questions, leave your comments live on Facebook or YouTube. If you're on Twitter, you have to get over to one of those channels, check out the Bayou Bets YouTube channel, and you can leave your comments live. So, Spencer, exciting time of year, as long as you don't care whether the Saints won or not.
Yeah, that was it was brutal, but in a way it was like just end it, put the nail in the coffin. This season was cursed from the start, man. I'm kind of glad it's over. Yeah, you're right, Jerry. 2023 loading. Let's turn the page, move on to 2023. The train is officially wrecked. So
I mean,
yeah.
cursed is a good word for it. You talk about a fitting way for that miserable season to end. 98.7% chance to win with 5 minutes to go via ESPN, and they found a way to blow it. I was just telling you off the air, I had a survivor pool on one of 32 people left for $100,000. 10 of those 32 had the Bucks last night, which to me was a ridiculous pick. That's not a good pick. I don't know why they did it,
No.
and they got away with it. And that's the kind of stuff that just sticks with you. So it's not good. Jerry says it was scripted. It sure seemed like that. Once
Yeah,
once
they had a
Brady got his
thing.
hands back on the ball.
Yeah, that thing on TikTok about when Mark Ingram stepped out, they were like, this is clearly shows that the NFL is rigged. It was all scripted. He stepped out to where Brady could then have the chance to make the comeback.
I mean, Brady would have had a chance anyway. It would have been less of a chance. And also, they called holding on the Bucks on the first touchdown that would have won. Like, it's not. Stop with that. Please stop with
Yeah,
that.
definitely.
It's but
That's when I thought it was over. At that point, I was all right, cool. All right. He had it and then they took it away. All right, maybe the
oh,
Saints
I
will
mean, they still
finally
had
get
three
a gift.
chances though. Yeah,
Finally get a gift. But it was just so long that I figured at that point, like, man, even Brady's back is so much against the wall at this point. Even he can't do it. But nope. I'll just, man. But hey, at least my prediction was right. As
yeah.
awful as it was
Spencer
right.
did call 17-16 with a late Tom Brady comeback, so that's pretty
Uh,
incredible. Go back and watch Bayou Bets yesterday. Um, uh, I don't know. Listen, we can bury the Saints more properly on Thursday's Bayou Bet show. Let's get into
yeah, we'll
fantasy
wait for
football.
Jim. Yeah, Jim will
Yeah,
bury him
check out
properly.
Datitude this morning too. Jim already buried him, I think.
Yeah, he did.
We're brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook here at the Fantasy Roundup. Check out NOLA.com/Caesars. If you are not already signed up, you can do so. And the Saints are up, but hey, you could win some money. Your first bet, if it doesn't win, you get a free bet back up to $1,250. So that's a pretty good deal. Use promo code NOLAFULL or just go to NOLA.com/Caesars. Let's see. Top scoring quarterbacks week 13. The Jalen Hurts show and Joe Burrow and Geno Smith had a nice day too, Spencer.
Yeah. Hurts and Burrow for sure were the stars of the show. Burrow stepping up against Mahomes and the Chiefs. It's crazy to think that Mahomes, even in an off day, still cracked the top five. Just goes to show how good he is. But it also goes to show how weak the quarterback position's been this year. Because Hurts and Burrow turned up. They've been really good. Mahomes has been really good. But outside of them and a few others, there hadn't been a whole lot of many other consistent options where guys like Geno and Jared Goff have been fairly reliable most weeks, because a lot of like Brady and Rodgers have fallen off, and guys like Lawrence that we step up haven't really done so. So yeah, it's been an interesting quarterback year for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, you talk about Jared Goff, like the Lions offense. Buy. Buy stock in the Lions offense right now. It looks incredible. We saw Jacksonville. Look, I mean, I know Jacksonville can kind of be the butt of jokes. That defense had been playing pretty well, and then they went to Detroit and they just got torched, And Jerry's still bemoaning the Saints. I mean, look, they were beat. I don't know how you get beat deep on that play when you're up by 2 touchdowns with 3 minutes left, but they were beat. You almost had to commit the pass interference. Saints are
Yeah,
minutes away from going five.
double team. What
Yeah.
were y'all doing on Mike
Um,
Evans? Double team him.
Minutes and seconds
Oh my
away.
god.
Listen, the Saints are minutes away from being like 7-6. I mean, there's been
Oh
like
yeah,
three of
it's the
these games this
coaching.
year.
It's the coaching for sure. It's definitely the coaching.
You can't now. Yeah, some of it's bad breaks, like Minnesota double doink, and and so like Mark Ingram gets hurt, and so he steps out of bounds a yard early. Like some of that you can't control as a coach, but when it keeps happening, week after week, and you're at the end of the season, you go, well, we could have won this game and this game and this game and this game if just this one thing had happened differently. It's hard not to conclude that the coach shares a lot of blame in that.
Yeah, you got to do better throughout the game leading up to that, so you're not relying on these last second situations and relying on the bounce of the ball. You've got to be ahead in these games. I mean, which they were, and then they somehow blew it last night. You got to, but you can't. You just got to have your guys more prepared, and that
Like,
lies on the coaches. And the fact
it,
is, they're not prepared enough to close out these games.
yeah, I don't want to turn this into a Saints show. Maybe it will anyway. But like this is the NFL. It's such a great illustration. The NFL has such a little margin for error, and doing every little thing to help your team win counts. Mark Ingram, it's 2nd and 8 or 2nd and 7, and he gets 6 yards instead of 7. It's still 3rd and 1. No big deal. Yeah, big deal. 12 men in the huddle penalty when it was 10-3. Oh, no big deal. We'll still kick a field goal and go up 2 scores. Big deal. Just these little things. These little things. Um, all of a sudden it makes it so that Taysom Hill's got to hang on to a 3rd and 17, which was a great throw, by the way, and I don't blame him for dropping it. But like all these little things, um, they add up. So running backs, Christian McCaffrey, best scores a 49er. Spencer.
Yep. Yep, definitely. And Tony Pollard kept it going. Samaje Perine, another big day with Joe Mixon out again. Surprising there. A lot of people thought Mixon would clear protocols, but still has the concussion, unfortunately. So Perine's been stepping in as this. The Bengals, that's an offense you could plug in. Not trying to disrespect Perine, but you could plug in pretty much any running back there, and they're going to eat for fantasy. And then DeAndre Swift bounced back, and Josh Jacobs, another big day.
Let's talk about DeAndre Swift just a second because he got hurt early in the year. He was clearly the number one in Detroit. Then he got hurt. Jamal Williams was clearly the number one. And then when Swift came back, it was like he had been Wally pipped. Like all of a sudden, Williams was getting all the carries, especially at the goal line. Swift was like the third down back. This was the first week we saw that kind of shift back. Is that just Swift getting healthy? Do you think it's just a 1 week off? Are you back to ranking Swift ahead of Williams?
I think I'm back to ranking Swift ahead of him because that's how they wanted it to go. Before the season, it was Swift was the primary back, and I think he had been banged up in these past few weeks. They're just kind of easing him back in, and I think this was the week they're finally like, all right, he's healthy enough to go. We'll make him the primary back. To where Williams, though, is still a decent start for fantasy because he gets the goal line work, kept his touchdown streak going. But I feel like for PPR leagues, which most of y'all play in, Swift is the guy because he's the one, even when he wasn't getting the carries, he was still getting targets. He would still usually catch like 4 or 5 passes. And now that he's back to getting a healthy amount of carries, he's definitely an RB2 and could have RB1 upside in that offense.
Yeah, and the Lions are just a smash spot. We'll talk about next week's over-unders, but that's the highest over-under in the league is the Lions and Vikings next week. So definitely one to keep an eye on there. Wide receivers from Week 13, the Devontae Adams show in Las Vegas and the Amon-Ra St. Brown show in Detroit. And, of course, A.J. Brown gets his revenge game against the Titans.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of big performances at receiver. Running back was kind of down this week as well as quarterback, but a lot of receivers stepped up big. Devontae, Amon-Ra, A.J. Brown, Tyreek the Freak, Tyler Lockett, a lot of the usual suspects up here. So it's nice to see them. A lot of them were, I'm not going to say down, but like, A.J. Brown had a few off weeks and stuff. So nice to see them back to being elite.
Moving on to tight ends, top tight end scores in Week 13. Look away, Saints fans. Look away. Taysom Hill did have the nice 30-yard touchdown catch. Kate Otten had a touchdown catch for the Bucks. You know what really chaps me too is that not only did the Bucks win that game, but I had a boosted odds thing on either Godwin or Evans to score a touchdown at even money. And of course, that didn't happen either. Godwin caught the one that was called back because of the hold, but it was Cade Otton and then Rashad White who caught the touchdown passes. So it didn't work out. Not much to speak of on the tight end scene this week.
No, it was a dead zone. I mean, there was just nobody really of significance that did much. Dulcich, congrats to those that streamed him, or Evan Ingram. I know a lot of y'all are just kind of just grasping for anything, and they hit. So that was good. Both of them, I could see logic in streaming them because they've had some good weeks prior to this. But yeah, overall, terrible week. And speaking of Godwin, I got a bad beat story for y'all real quick. I was in a must-win scenario to keep my playoff hopes alive. This is my worst league. I was like hanging on by a thread, and I had Godwin. I was like, all right, so if Godwin can score here, I'll win. And sure, he scores. I'm like, yes, I'm winning. I'm still alive. But then they took it away and then ended up losing by 3 points. Season is donezo in that league. Awful beat.
Tough. Yeah, honestly, that's why I say, like, Saints fans, oh, it's a conspiracy. I didn't think that was really a hold. I didn't understand that call. It was like they were giving the Saints a second chance.
Yeah, that crew was horrendous.
The Saints got called for a hold earlier in the game that I thought was really bad, and then there was a pass interference on the Bucks I thought was really bad as well earlier in the game. The big pass interference on the Saints, look, that's the right call there. So yeah, I don't know. But speaking of trying to make the playoffs and seasons being over, we got quite the showdown here, Guru, in the listener league. You and I going after that last playoff spot. I lost a tight one to Team Manoka, who is all but in the playoffs now. Those top two teams have clinched their playoff spots, Bucktown Rebel and Bama Fikes. Manoka, all he needs is one more win or one more Spencer the Guru loss. And then it's between you and I at this point for that last spot.
Right. Yeah, my team keeps fighting. I was in a must-win this week against my dad, original Saints fan, and got it done. Thanks to CMC, because my team is just kind of frustrating. It's okay. It's been all right. It looks good on paper, but my receivers have just killed me all year long. Michael Pittman stunk. Ayuk's up and down. Deontay isn't very good. That's what's killed my team in this league. Everything, my QB spot's generally pretty decent, and my running backs have been great. Tight end is what it is. But yeah, receivers, you need elite receivers, and Bucktown and Bama have that. That's why they're so far ahead of the pack. And I know you, Zach, have CD Lamb. So it just hurts not having an anchor receiver. So maybe my running backs can carry me, but if I'm being real, I'm not feeling too good about it.
Well, I play I Will Lutz for You, which is my buddy Aaron, next. And he's technically still in the playoff picture, but he would need you to lose a game. He would need to win both and have me lose both. And he would have to make up about 260 point difference. So probably not going to happen for him. But he could help you out by beating me this week. And then we could be tied going into that final week. So
yeah, at least
we'll
he still has an incentive to set his lineup. So he's still in it. So yeah, come on, Aaron, let's go. We got one of us needs to take down Bayou Bet Zach.
No. Saints Panthers tickets on the line. Nobody wants them anymore.
Oh, but you might see Jameis. They might finally turn to Jameis for that one.
They're good seats, and it'll be a good time. Saints might win
just
one
have
to end the season.
Some beers. Yeah, just
cost the Eagles a couple of spots in the draft. With another win. So there you go. You're watching the Fantasy Roundup on bet.nola.com and the Bayou Bets YouTube channel. Give us a like, subscribe, comment your questions, set your playoff lineups. Let us know if you're in your fantasy football playoffs and what seed you got. Or if you need to win this week, let us know what you need. Put it out into the universe. Our fantasy stars for week 13, the week that was, you went with CMC, who helped you out big time in our league, Spencer.
Yeah, that's part of why I went with him, is because if it wasn't for him, I'd be eliminated. I'd have another coffin league, the listener league, but he kept my season alive. So I'm going to keep fighting. And yeah, he's a big reason why he's now Elijah Mitchell out. That was a blessing in disguise. Now they're just going to just feed CMC like the way he was fed in Carolina. Going to see probably over 20 touches a game. So yeah, let's go.
My fantasy star, I went with Davante Adams. He was the highest score of any player this week. This is really what you kind of expected when he went to Vegas, and we haven't seen it every week. We're starting to see it a little more often. 177 yards on 8 catches with 2 touchdowns. And now if you add up, I say he trails Diggs by 2.7 points. That's for the whole season. He's the number 2 wide receiver in the NFL this year in fantasy football. Just 2.7 points behind Stephon Diggs. He has passed Cooper Kupp, who was sitting at number 2, and obviously now will not be playing again, and so he's going to fall off. So Adams could end up being the number 1 receiver, even with kind of a rough patch in there.
Right. Yeah, he's we know we're getting there. And he's all they got. The Raiders, Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller on the IR. So yeah, it's just Adams, Adams, and more Adams.
And they play Thursday night this week against the Rams. Smash spot for Davante Adams. If you're playing Thursday night DFS, you almost got to start him, don't you? Just because if you don't, you're going to get left in the dust.
Yeah, it's like Jalen Ramsey. Yeah, he's licking his chops. There's Jalen Ramsey. I feel like a lot of receivers have just been getting their revenge on him because he used to be a shutdown corner, would talk all kind of smack, and now that he's washed, receivers are like, all right, we're going to really turn up against him, just hang 150, 2 tugs on him.
Man, DK Metcalf got the game-winning touchdown pass on him last week, and just that Rams defense, man, no pass rush with that. Keep an eye. If Aaron Donald should come back Thursday, maybe that changes the equation.
No, he's on a high ankle sprain.
On a short week, I don't see. Yeah. And what are the Rams? They don't need to push him back for anything. They're 3-9. They're worse than the Saints are, for God's sake. Which, by the way, the Rams, and they've got the Super Bowl title, so they don't care as much. They don't have their first-round pick either. They gave it to the Lions for Matthew Stafford, so the Lions are going to get a top 10 pick as well as the Eagles.
Man, it's crazy to say the rich get richer and have the Lions in that state.
Talk about the Lions.
But the Lions, man, they're going to win the NFC North next year.
Calling it right now, huh?
Yeah, early. Right. Calling early shots. The early shot. Yeah.
All right, mark it down. December the 6th. Spencer the Guru says the Lions. Well, and listen, last night he said Brady with a late touchdown drive and the Bucs win 17-16. So. Hate him all you want, but you got to respect him. Spencer the Guru knows his stuff.
My vision's clear right now. My vision, because sometimes it's not always the clearest, but right now I'm feeling pretty good. But that best bet's the best bet. Hit the under hit last night. So
yeah, your same game parlay almost hit. Brady screwed you up
Brady,
last
man,
by about 10 yards.
Yep. Gotcha. Yep, unbelievable. Come on, Saints.
But daily best bet's looking good, and waiver wire targets. So if your vision is good, these are the guys that you want to go after. Talk about those Lions. Jameson and Williams, 30% owned. He might be out there.
Yeah, definitely. They normally it's under 30. But I was like, man, I got to put Jameson because he's right there. And there's somebody that he might not do amazing this week. I know the matchup's good, but he's somebody that I think once he gets his footing under him coming off the ACL, he could end up being a league winner for those playoff matchups, maybe like week 17, just because he's just so talented. When he's healthy, he's a guy that can just take the top off of defense. And that's kind of all the Lions are missing. Their offense is looking really nice. And if Jameson can do his thing, then that's it. That'll be the last piece of the puzzle that they need to have an elite offense. And as for the rest of these guys, James Cook's one I really like, because with the Bills, they're running the ball more, and Cook's been more involved. So I like him. He's trending up. And then Tyler Huntley with Lamar Jackson out, I feel like he's a good stopgap QB. And then Daniel Bellinger. It's a dumpster dive, but there's not much at tight end.
Yeah, little bit of a tough matchup for the Ravens going to Pittsburgh this week with Huntley. But going forward, maybe a streamer, maybe a guy you stash on your bench. I have to look at the Ravens schedule for the fantasy playoffs, but a possibility there.
Yeah, and with Lamar, he might miss multiple weeks. So Huntley, and Pittsburgh's not that good. Like Pittsburgh, yeah, they shut down Atlanta, but Atlanta, they stink. The Falcons are not good. So I'm not buying Pittsburgh as having everything figured out on defense. So I think Huntley could do pretty good over there.
As far as who you drop, and this really becomes more important as we get to the playoffs, because you certainly don't want to drop a guy who's got just a beautiful matchup in 2 weeks when you're going to be sitting in the semifinals and kicking yourself because somebody else picked him up. So here's guys you say you can drop, and an interesting name there at the top, Spencer.
Yeah, I know he led the comeback last night, but for fantasy, I want no part of Tom Brady. Tom Brady has stunk this year overall. And I mean, he had to do it against the Saints, like, but he just in most matchups he is just like against the Browns, like he just never got it going. He's had more bad than good this year. I feel like a lot of people are gonna after last night aren't gonna want to drop him, but to me, I'd still drop him because he's probably going to do bad his next 2 weeks. He's got the 49ers and then the Bengals, two defenses that are really good, especially the 49ers. So if you maybe want him for the stretch, I think he probably gets some NFC South cupcakes there, like Atlanta or something. Yeah, he doesn't get Atlanta in week 18. Looking at his schedule, it's the Niners, Bengals, Cardinals, Panthers. That's not a very favorable schedule. I mean, Cardinals and Panthers aren't great, but I don't really want to mess with Tom Brady. I mean, it just,
Yeah, and
yeah.
look, I mean, I think to your point, Spencer, he threw the ball like 50 times last night, but he doesn't do that if the Bucks are not trailing. And like look at the game against the Browns where they were leading most of the game. He didn't throw nearly that many passes. The Bucks would prefer. I mean, like that's one criticism that Todd Bowles has received is that he's too conservative with the lead and plays not to lose. And last night they had no choice. They had to. But even before the comeback, they punted from. They were down 13-3 and punted from like the 41, the Saints 41,
Yeah,
and then they
Brady
were
wanted
down.
to go
Yeah,
for it.
and then they were down 16-3 and they punted from there. Yeah, that was the one Brady wanted to go and they punted again. That one's a little more defensible. But like Bowles is very cautious. And so unless you find, and now they may be down against the 49ers, but I I can see what you're saying. So very interesting. I got a question here from Jeff. He says he's got Lamar and Deshaun Watson, so he needs a quarterback. Who should I drop off my bench? Judy, Josh Palmer, George Pickens, Latavius Murray, or Cordero Patterson? Goff, Cousins, or Huntley? I tell you, I like Goff right now. I mean, I don't care who the Lions are playing. He's producing.
Right. Yeah, I would say I would drop either Pickens or Murray. Probably Murray, man. Broncos are garbage. I'd say drop Murray and then make. Damn, that's tough. All those are pretty good options. I guess
Yeah,
Goff.
Cousins not a bad option either.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess Goff, Huntley, then Cousins. Maybe those are all good though. Claim all three. Just claim all three. Doesn't really matter the order. Just hope you get one of them. And yeah, I'd drop Murray.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I mean, yeah, Deshaun Watson, very disappointing debut. We didn't
Yeah,
talk about
definitely
that,
can't trust him.
but again, against the Texans, which is of course a great matchup, they won the game. They scored 3 touchdowns, but it was 2 defensive touchdowns and a special teams touchdown. Which, if you're in a league that has defense and special teams, just pick up whoever is playing the Texans. And you got a pretty
Yeah.
pretty good chance of that working out for you. But Deshaun Watson, the Bengals this week, you know, could it have just been rust? Maybe he's better as the weeks go on. I think he will get slightly better. But they play the Bengals. They'll be behind by a lot in that they get the Saints. I think on in week 16, the Saints are not real easy to move the ball against always. So I'm not sure Deshaun Watson is rosterable right now.
Yeah, I didn't put him on gotta go because he wasn't really rostered in enough leagues. But yeah, to me, this is like preseason for him. The Browns are out of it. This is preseason. Expectations aren't really high, and he's gonna be rusty, not having played in over a year. So if you have him, just have him as a speculative backup. Don't trust him as your starter.
Yeah, I don't hate holding on to him for this week. Don't start him, but just see what he does against the Bengals in a game that could be a shootout potentially. Um, and then, if it is and he does well, then you can consider starting him. I think they have the Ravens the following week, depending on what your matchups are. But yeah, a couple more questions coming in. Clamped says Pollard or Kenneth Walker this week. Well, first off, Kenneth Walker's got to be cleared, but I think Pollard's a smash spot against the Texans.
Yeah, because Walker's banged up. Definitely Pollard. That's not even close. Yeah, there's the Cowboys. I was looking at the early line, 17-point favorites. That's the
I
most
think
I've ever seen, I think.
Pollard and Zeke might both be RB1s this week. I mean, they're both going to get a bunch of touches. No reason for the Cowboys to throw the ball a ton or anything. I mean, get out to a lead and then they'll just run on a team that can't stop the run. So,
Yeah.
uh, healing meditation. That's everybody could use a little bit of that today.
Yeah, for real.
Healing meditation says who wins this trade? Jonathan Taylor for Joe Mixon and James Conner. I'm going to say the Mixon and Conner side, Spencer.
Yeah, I agree because that Colts offense is not good. And I mean, JT, he's been all right, but he hadn't been what we thought he was. So yeah, and Mixon, you can make a case that Mixon's just as good or better, and you're getting Connor to boot. Yeah, that's easy for me.
Yeah, I mean Mixon. Now he's got to come back, but if he comes back, we talk about that Bengals offense. Now they play the Bucks, a little bit tough to run on. That will be the first round of the fantasy playoffs. But Mixon's, he's a plug and play RB1.
Yeah, let's say anybody that Bengals offense is just so good. Whoever their primary back is a fantasy stud.
All right, moving on the fantasy roundup here on Bayou Bets. Leave your question or comment, and we'll get to you before the show is over. We want to pivot and do some DFS for Week 14. This is all main slate, and I think you're going to see us both target this game. But Vikings Lions is the game that could be the shootout. It's got the highest total. I got Kirk Cousins. And Spencer, we'll get to you in a second, but you went with Jared Goff. I mean, both great spots. We talked about DeAndre Swift. You're getting a discount here, and it's a little bit of a risk, but if he is the top dog in Detroit again, like you speculated, Spencer, 5,800 is a bargain for that guy. And then DJ Moore, same thing. Look, the Seahawks can move the ball on that team. We saw the Rams do it. We saw the Raiders certainly do it 2 weeks ago. The Seahawks are still in the playoff hunt, but you can move the ball on that team, and I think DJ Moore at 5,500 is a great value. And then second straight week, it did not work out last week, but George Kittle and the Niners against the Bucks. Tight ends tend to smash against the Bucks, and you can get Kittle at a cheap price here too.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, Kittle. I was thinking Kittle could do pretty well last week against Miami, but he kind of struggled. So yeah, it should be a good bounce back opportunity for him. And then yeah, DJ Moore with Sam Darnold should do decent here. I mean, with Baker Mayfield, him and Baker Mayfield are just not on the same page. Baker Mayfield wasn't on the same page with anybody. He was just horrendous. So yeah, definitely better that DJ Moore's got Darnold to work with.
Spencer, your DFS picks, as I mentioned, you targeted that Lions Vikings game heavily as well.
Right. Yeah, I went with 3 players in this one. To me, that's the game to target. It's the highest total on the betting, on the books. The books have it going over 50 points, and I agree. So I'm going to say stack Jared Goff with Amon-Ra St. Brown. I know he's pretty expensive there at 7,800, but to me, he's still a value because the Vikings secondary is trash. I mean, they are garbage. Garrett Wilson lit them up. I mean, Patrick Peterson, he is not what he used to be. He is old. He's lost a step. Amon-Ra is going to crush him, and then Goff, of course, be the one throwing it to him. TJ Hawkinson, Lions defense is soft, be a revenge game for Hawkinson. I like the value there at 5,100. And then Deontay Foreman, Carolina, just slipped my mind. You just went over it, Zach. Who are there? Oh, yeah, Seattle, right?
And Seattle can't. I mean, they couldn't stop the Rams. If you can't stop the Rams, you can't stop anybody.
The run defense, the Rams' run defense. I mean, Seattle's run defense, stinky. So Deontay Foreman in a good spot there.
Yeah, so those are 2 games to target, and that's why we do this list. These are your top totals for Week 10. The starred games are the primetime games, so they are their own. For DFS, they're their own slate. But the other ones, all games to target in that Sunday slate. Vikings Lions, of course. I mean, look at that, 6.5 points higher than any other Sunday day game. Dolphins Chargers, again, in most contests is its own separate game. So 6.5 points higher than Browns Bengals, which could turn into a shootout. But really, if you're not targeting that game on Sunday, we talked about Panthers Seahawks, but the total's fairly low there. It's kind of difficult to pick guys out. Maybe Cowboys runners we talked about.
Yeah, this is kind of a tricky slate. But yeah, I think Panthers Seahawks might be the low key shootout of the week because there's not really their defenses aren't good. So I think that game could end up sneaky because I mean, like the Chiefs Broncos, I think the Broncos could muddy that one up. Jets Bills, the Jets could muddy that one up. The Texans Cowboys, Texans aren't going to compete. Eagles Giants could kind of muddy that up. The Browns Bengals, Watson's not himself. So yeah, to me, those would be the 2 I'd target. Vikings, Lions, and Panthers, Seahawks.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be afraid to go to Panthers, Seahawks, in DFS because Vikings, Lions, we talk about how much we like it. Everybody's going to go to that game. I mean, other people look at these totals too, right? And in DFS, it's all about finding leverage, getting that pivot. And so if everybody goes to play Justin Jefferson, I don't know if everybody's going to pay for him. He's like $9,000.
Yeah, I'd
But
rather
if
Amon-Ra him. He's the
yeah,
one to pay up for.
but if everyone pays for him, you don't have any leverage at that. So maybe that's where you go in and you look for the Adam Thielens or the tight ends or uh,
DJ
you know
Chark.
yeah, DJ Chark, Jamal Williams instead. Pivot somewhere that you can get a piece of that game where everybody else isn't going to go. And it's a little bit difficult to predict, but that's really what you got to do if you're going to win those DFS tournaments. Jeff, another question out of Hollywood: Judy, Palmer, Rashad White, and Pickens. Who should he flex? Let's see. Hollywood is against the Patriots. I don't. I actually don't hate Jerry Judy or Palmer. What do you think, Spencer?
Yeah, I think Palmer actually might be the move. I'd check Mike Williams' status. If Williams goes, I'd say Hollywood. But if Mike Williams is out again, I'd probably go Palmer because the Dolphins secondary is vulnerable. Hollywood against New England, not a great spot. I mean, New England's defense is still pretty good. So I think I'd rather Palmer, assuming Williams is out.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at like the Dolphins. Every time they play up against a better offense, they give up points. And we talked about that Dolphins Chargers. That's the second highest total of the week. So I think I would go Palmer, especially if Mike Williams is out in that game. You're trying to get a piece of some of those 52 points in that game. I think that's where I would go. One more call for questions or comments. Leave them now. We're going to do our Week 14 sleepers and then sign off for the week. Spencer, who are people sleeping on in Week 14?
Yeah, they're sleeping on Demarcus Robinson because he's all they got in Baltimore, really. I mean, Devin Duvernay is a gadget player. He's not really a trustworthy receiver there. So I think Robinson's the one because I like Huntley this week. I really do. I think he's a good streamer. And so he's going to have to target somebody other than Mark Andrews. And I think that guy will be Demarcus Robinson.
And I'm going with Donovan Peoples-Jones. And again, this is sleepers. So these are guys, like, I understand there's some questions about Deshaun Watson, but everything the Browns have said since Watson came back is like, hey, we're trying to get the ball in the hands of our playmakers. We're trying to do this. Look, does that mean Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt? Yes, it does. But Donovan Peoples-Jones had the punt return for a touchdown last week. He does that sort of stuff. I would not be surprised if the Browns try to force him the ball a little bit, especially if the Bengals start loading up to stop Chubb in the running game. Donovan Peoples-Jones might be a pretty good play this week. He did get several targets from Deshaun Watson last week. He is their best playmaker on the perimeter, at least outside of Amari Cooper. And if Amari Cooper's getting attention, kind of like DPJ.
Yeah, especially they'll probably be chasing points there against Burrow. So yeah, he could break out.
I was thinking the Patriots defense gravitates towards D-Hop. Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad thought.
Yeah,
but
they could.
Yeah, I do think that Chargers-Dolphins game is the better one to target, especially if like Spencer said, if Mike Williams is out again. So that's going to do it for us on the Fantasy Roundup for Week 13. 1 week to go, Guru. 1 week to go until playoffs. In most leagues, our listener league still has 2 weeks, which to my chagrin, because one more week I'd be feeling pretty good.
Right, yeah, because a lot of the 10-team leagues or less are usually only the 2-week playoffs, or the 12-man leagues, which I know a lot of y'all now do the 12-teamers, which, yeah, those are the 3-week playoffs where the top twos get a bye, and then, 3 plays 6, 4 plays 5. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's got to buckle up, get ready. I'm in some that it's like, man, it's got to prepare, manage the waiver wire and just keep tabs on the news each day, like especially Fridays. Fridays are huge for the news as far as those late injury reports. I'd say Friday afternoons, Saturday evenings when all the Shefty bombs come in about, who so-and-so is expected to play. And then, of course, Sunday morning in case something fluky happens, like an unexpected sit decision or, unexpected inactive. But yeah, y'all know how to do that. If y'all made it this far, y'all know what y'all are doing. Just stay the course, keep it rolling, and get those championships.
Yeah, I mean, the staying on top of the news is huge. And you talk about Friday. A lot of leagues on Friday, if you see something, you can go get whoever's on the waiver wire without having to pay or go through waivers or whatever. I mean, you could just go get him, depending on your league's rules. So definitely keep an eye on those final injury reports. Pivot immediately. The faster you can react to the news, the bigger advantage you have. That's going to do it for the Fantasy Roundup for Week 13. We'll be back with you next Tuesday at 2 o'clock. Good luck, everybody. Secure those playoff spots. We want our listeners to win championships all over the state of Louisiana and the rest of the country. For Spencer the Guru, I'm Zach Ewing. Good day and good luck this week.